I'm really excited to come to you today and talk to you about a topic near and dear to my heart, millennials. I'm excited about talking to you about millennials, one, because I have a ton of really highly accountable, incredibly creative, innovative, get it done millennials that make up my team. These folks are not what you're describing on the internet. They aren't entitled. They aren't attention deficit disorder. They aren't addicted to their screens and their phones, but they did grow up in an era where they had a lot of screen time, they have a ton of internet and IT capabilities, and they love to get work done in easy, efficient, and amazing ways. So what's the problem? Here's the problem. Recently, many people are falling into a story that says, millennials, it's just not your fault. It's just not your fault. Now, let's back up. It's not about fault. We all grew up with something in our circumstances that could impact our ultimate success at work. Every one of us grew up that way. Mine, lack of diversity. I grew up in a tiny little town in Iowa. I work internationally. It's not my fault that I grew up with very little diversity in my hometown, but I do have an accountability to make sure that I compensate for that lack of experience with some development, some curiosity, and some personal growth. I once listened to a wonderful physician, and she talked about all the things that women did in their behavior that would contribute to the likelihood that they would eventually get cancer, breast cancer specifically. And one woman stood up furious. She raised her hand and she said, "So are you blaming me for my own breast cancer?" And the physician said, "I am not blaming you for your breast cancer, but I am holding you accountable to your recovery." Now this is important information because most of us have rewritten our history about what we were like when we came into the workforce. Here's the truth. Every one of us came into this workforce under-coached and over-rewarded. All of us had great unrealistic goals. All of us had great ideas. We saw the world with fresh eyes. We had different skill sets than the generations we were joining. All of that's fabulous, except the difference was most of you and I had leaders who knew that we were highly skilled, but often over-rewarded and under-coached, and they jumped in and coached us on how to find the perfect blend of what we brought to the table that was new and innovative and ready to take the organization to the next level, and coached us on how we could blend all of that talent with what worked, what was reality-based, how we could succeed in spite of our circumstances. So please don't buy in to these millennials as though they are victims. These millennials are talented folks who are very quickly becoming parents of multiple kids or fur pets. They're 35 years old. Let's stop the madness about how the millennials are downtrodden, entitled, irresponsible, uncoachable. Whatever story you've made up about millennials, I want you to edit it, to drop the story. The only thing we know for sure is that we have people joining our workforce that have differing experiences growing up than many of us did. End of story. What can we do? We can get to know what their experiences are, what they come equipped to do, and we can mentor and coach them to make sure that those things are tapped into in our current economies and that we can support where they want to go while holding them accountable to the non-negotiables. I went to a conference once and met up with some folks who were complaining about millennials. And they were educators and they were in medical school education. And they kept telling me these kids just don't learn anymore, and they want the PowerPoints and they want to skip class and they want to take the easy way out and they don't want to pay their dues like I paid my dues. They said, that's interesting. And they said, they'll only learn if they're entertained and they'll only learn if they're this or they're that. And so I listened And I understood that given their experiences, they have some expectations that the way we educate them will be more valuable, more effective, more efficient. I get that. And then I asked this particular educator and some of his peers, what amazing changes have you made in the way that you teach over the last 30 years? They couldn't give me one. See, here's where the danger comes in. I don't step up and stay ready and teach in many different ways. I step down, get unready, and then blame the students that they're an unteachable generation. Be very careful, because this is a sophisticated way that your ego will justify your lack of effort and accountability and readiness. See, the educators I know have stepped up. They love teaching the next generation because they've moved from PowerPoint to experiential to self-contained simulation. They have moved into virtual reality. They have moved into the ability to coach one-on-one and to bypass the ego and to ask questions for self-reflection and really spur innovation and use crowdsourcing and all kinds of other great techniques to spark interest and to teach. But we can't blame the learners if we, the teachers, haven't changed our methods for the last 30 years. You don't even buy the same cereal you ate 30 years ago. Why would you want to buy the same educational experience?